Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. Today's video will be a little bit different since I won't play any PvP, but we'll have some sort of discussion. This theme came across my mind and I think it can be interesting to cover this topic since I couldn't find anything similar on Google by typing which classes had the most chance of killing healers in 1 vs 1 or which classes make the biggest pressure on healers overall. First of all, let's make it clear, this is my opinion based on my PvP experience, so it might not be 100% accurate, but I will try to explain why I think that way for each of the classes mentioned in the video. Other thing is that potential of each spec depends a lot of PvP season we are talking about, so some of them shine in early, some on later phases of Wrath. About gear, I'll take standard builds from both DPS and healers, which means healers are wearing, let's say, from about 1.2 to 1.4k resilience in season 7-8, so don't mention me 1.5k resilience build with tank trinkets, that way any healer is unbeatable. Also, places won't be ranked by strength, I'll just mention 5 I think have the highest chances of killing a healer or having biggest pressure on it. Feel free to join conversation in comment section, but try to base your opinions on facts including all criteria I just mentioned. I hope you'll enjoy the video, so let's start. First pick I find maybe even underrated in terms of PvP is a Tuneling King Assassination Rogue. Why I think Rogue has a lot of chance of killing healers? Well, there is a couple of important things that make this class suitable for this video. On first place, it's Wound Poison, which reduces healing done by 50% and it's hardly dispellable in combination with endless deadly poison stacks just from basic attacks. We are not talking here only about Burst, which Mutilate surely has, but I'm also talking about base that Assassination Rogue can prepare before he chooses to use double cold blinded and venoms to execute the target. In normal 1 vs 1 fights, Rogue won't usually use Slice and Dice, Rupture and Expose armor, or not at least in combination, because it costs a lot of combo points, but he clearly can do that against healers, especially in arena with a healer on his back. So that's the case here. If Assassination Rogue makes a 5 combo point Expose armor, then 5 combo point Slice and Dice, and on top of that Rupture, it will greatly boost his passive damage on target, and by that time you will have constant 4 or 5 stacks of deadly poison, even with dispels. Next important thing is to refill your energy up to 100% before starting the final blow. Don't start using Envenoms and Mutilate with 30 energy in your pocket because it will result in nothing. When you got your 100% energy, you wait for healer to drop at least 80% health while he's trying to do whatever, if it's dispels or trying to damage you or healing partner or whatever. Then you use your kidney shot, where improved kidney shot from talents could help a lot if you force his trinket on opener when you didn't use cold blood. Kidney doesn't change a lot of things since you can burst if he's stunned or not. That way you'll bring them very fast under 40% health in no time, where they will probably use their biggest defensive cooldowns, like Priest PS or Divine Shield from Paladin. What is great about the Assassination Rogue is that you can repeat this again very soon and make them under constant pressure, but without their major CDs. If you wait for them to use major CDs, make sure to at least save your preparation for Cold Blind and Envenom in next try. On top of that, you get Kick, which is a huge deal if you succeed to land it, and if you don't, you have Banish to Garroth. In my opinion, this pack is more than decent against healers, but if you can't kill them, at least you can make very good pressure, unlike sub-rogues who can literally use Shadow Dance. What I almost forgot to mention is that Mutilate rogues deal huge amount of natural damage through poison and envenoms, which bypasses 20k armor on paladins, which makes them viable healer killers in all seasons, and they don't use ARP, which can be worse than an attack power against cloth and leather enemies. Next one is guess who? One and only Arms Warrior. Arms is arguably the best pack for killing healers in my opinion, and also known as the best pack for having healer behind his back. On first place, like rogues have Wound Poison, warriors have Mortal Strike, which also reduces healing done by 50%. Arms warriors are also known as the best tunelers in game, since they just can't run out of rage if they are on target all the time, which they basically are. Things that make him so great against healers are on first place his heavy two-handed, almost always critical strike hits through mortal strikes and overpower. That huge hits are followed by deep wounds and trauma, which cannot be dispelled, same as his 50% slow from hamstrings. When you combine these heavy hits, 50% healing and movement reduction, and you add 12-second interrupt with 2 charges, which can also be used for interrupting spell casts, it becomes nightmare for every healer, including holy paladins. But what also made them so powerful in the later phases of Wrath of the Lich King, especially is high amount of armor penetration that warrior gets through endgame gear, 10% for battle stance, and there are even Sunder armors that reduce another 20% of armor when stacked. That makes paladins so vulnerable to warriors when you compare it to other specs without armor penetration or healing reduction. They can just tunnel you forever with permanent slow and healing reduction. You can either go out of mana or die by his heavy hits. What makes him even better than Assassination Rogue are low cooldowns on offensive abilities, where he basically doesn't depend on any offensive cooldown, so he can pretty much force enemy heavy defensives relatively fast and repeat the process right after they expire. This is my number 1 pick, that's for sure. Now we move on one caster, and it's Arcane Mage. This spec is quite different from what we have seen from first 2 specs. What I mean by that is type of DPS. Arcane Mage is mainly a burst machine, which works exceptionally well with Icy Veins, with some trinket procs and similar one-time effects for casting speed. Once they are gone, you depend a lot on your gear, and it's pretty impossible to kill a healer without beast PvE gear with tremendous amount of haste. Without that, your Arcane Blast will be 2-second cast, which is way too much. So what I'm trying to say is that Arcane Mage is not tunneling spec and cannot be that effective without major CDs like Icy Veins, unlike 2 first specs. Now let's see why is Arcane so powerful. First of all, Arcane Blast. It increases damage of your next arcane spell ability by 50% for each stack you gain, and you can go up to 175% bonus damage on your next ability. So you are literally overwriting Arcane Blast stacks with higher rank when you cast one blast after another, and waiting for Arcane Missiles after 3rd or 4th cast. That way you will already deal tremendous damage with Arcane Blasts only, and you will be able to make a quick cast of Arcane Missiles where each of 5 missiles will hit the enemy for massive damage, with critical or not. That is more than enough to bring down absolutely any class in game. Great thing is also the way you can polymorph your enemy and dispel all buffs, shields and other magic effects and then hit hard. On top of that, you have Counter Spell, which plays huge role here. If you land it successfully, you will unlock their healing school for 8 seconds, and even if you miss, you will still silence them for 4 seconds, which is about 3 Arcane Blast casts with decent gear and Icy Veins. You can see in background that I killed the same geared mage with just a land on 1 Counter Spell, how big role it plays. Priests, paladins can do a thing against you when you start from polymorph. If they start shielding or buffing, they will lose 50% health in 4 globals. If they start casting, they risk getting locked for 8 seconds, which is a sure death. Only killer that could survive is maybe Shaman with proper Vine Shears and Grounding Totems. But as I said on start, this pack is limited once it uses major CDs, and LOS plays a huge role here. My 4th pick would be WotLK. Why Blood but not Frost or Unholy? Well, Frost has a lot of problems with dispelling his diseases, where he'll lose a lot of DPS if he's Obliterate builded. On the other side, if you don't use Obliterate, there is no way of killing healer as Frost. On the other side, we got Unholy, who can lock his diseases and make some insane bursts with Gargoyle, Stun, Empowered Rune Weapon and Strangulating Opener. But I still think that every skilled healer should survive this opening burst with their major defensives. After that, I don't see a chance of killing a healer as Unholy DK, since he has no healing reduction, no ARP against paladins and shamans, where Scorch Strike damage sucks. WotLK doesn't depend on diseases at all, except Hot Strike, which can lose potential 20% damage, but that strike remains without any decrease of damage, and it's your main damaging ability. Cloud has some insane increase of damage through his talents, where he gets armor penetration, critical strike chance and critical strike damage, When you add Hysteria, which increases all physical damage you do for another 20%, and Dancing Rune Weapon, which strikes for another 50% of your damage, it becomes pure rhapsody of single target damage, whether it was healer or not. With huge amounts of armor penetration, which shouldn't be below 40%, and some critical strike chance, this is impossible for healer to survive. I showed you stats that Blood gets from his talents, and what makes Dead Strikes hit for 10k is also a clip of Dead Strike, which adds another 25% of damage. You can literally not use Black Strike or Chains of Ice in opener, and you start with Hysteria, 2 Dead Strikes and 2 Hard Strikes. Reset the runes with Empower Rune Weapon and hit 2 more Dead Strikes and 2 more Hard Strikes, with Strangulate in between. That's literally impossible to survive for any healer. Paladins could bubble, but then try forcing his mage before you activate all important offensive cooldowns, or at least Hysteria. For fifth one, I actually don't have a clear favorite, but I can name some that could do great against healers, and I'll be quick with these. One of them is surely Frost Mage. They are even maybe better than Arcane's, depends from what perspective you look at it. Arcane has biggest burst in game, and that's true. But Arcane doesn't have Cold Snap to reset the Icy Veins cooldown, which plays a huge role in forcing enemy cooldowns and reopening the fight. Frost has that ability, and their damage from free casting is just insane on single target. Almost every Frost Bolt is critical strike thanks to Shatter, and critical damage is increased by 100% thanks to Ice Shards. We also have Deep Freeze that guarantees 2 or 3 sure critical hits, and if Fingers of Frost proc after or before Deep Freeze, damage is just absurd with a lot of CC. On top of that, we have 20% reduced healing done, which Arcane doesn't have. But we have these spells for opener and counter spell in the middle of this insane burst on target without buffs and shields. Now when I see all of this pack definitely deserves to be on this list. Other mention that could make this list is maybe, but just maybe, Destruction Warlock. Honestly, I haven't seen very good Warlock fight a healer, but I mentioned it because of their nice CC chain with Fear, Coil, Stun and Silence. You need to be very good to combine these properly and to actually don't give a healer room to cleanse all the time. If you're average, you will get your amulet dispelled all the time and you wouldn't be able to proc backdraft, from which real damage actually come from. Also, sub-rogues can be just mentioned, but only if we consider another opener, since their Shadow Dance cooldown is relatively low, and it is possible to actually happen in real fight. Guy without Trinket, Bubble or PS is probably dead meat, but I honestly depends a lot of rogue gear. Perils could also be tough with reopen, stuns, permanent savage rogue damage increase, mixed bleed and huge instant damage and so on. But I wouldn't consider them for top 5. With all that being said, I don't see other spec doing anything major against healers. They can tunnel until healer run out of mana, but that's not the point of this video. So thanks everyone for watching, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and also feel free to express your thoughts about this topic in comment section, and see you soon.